God bless everyone out there in Radio Land. This is Barry and Karen coming to you live, and also is a pre-recorded, but it is live right now. And this is Dare to Be Different, and we thank God for the opportunity to come before you tonight. And we're here once again with another podcast. Like I said, from Dare to Be Different, this is our general podcast that we do just on different subjects and various topics that we talk about. We do have another one that we do, which will be starting next week, trying to do every other week, try to do our different podcasts so we can fit them all in. So Dare to Be Different is more our general podcast that we just do different topics and talking about things concerning the word, concerning life, concerning whatever other subjects other than marriage. Our main one, Embracing Marriage, is the one that we actually just talk about marriage and relationships and stuff like that. But we do have a podcast that's coming up, a series that's coming up that we're going to talk about. But first, I like to always greet my wife. Hello, wife.
Hey, husband, how are you?
All right. So I always like to do that before I start because I don't want to think that once I get on a roll and I don't want, we try and stay, we juiced up and we try to juice up before we start. See, we make some mistake of eating. That's the bad thing.
Yes, before we do this.
So we be sluggish in all kind of ways. But anyway, like I said, we're good and we're healthy. We're ready. And we want you to benefit from this podcast. Now, like I was saying, now the podcast that we actually are doing on next week is actually something that the Lord had gave my wife not too long ago, dealing with honoring your vows. I put it in our announcements on our site. If you want to see that announcement, you can go to our website, embracingmarriagetogether.wordpress.com. Go check out and then click on the announcements events tab. Actually click on the link that's on the side of announcements and events. It's going to show you that announcement. We talked about the new series that we're going to do on wedding vows, honoring your vows. And we're going to take each vow each day, and we're going to actually talk about those vows. We're going to break them down and talk about them. We're going to talk about different vows and ideas that were actually done in different cultures. So, but we're going to deal with the Christian culture. We're going to deal with the actual vows that are done, that was spoken in the Book of Common Prayers, as I read about it. And we talk about them, those ones that you always hear, the ones that you probably have done, unless you was one of those special people that wrote their prayers or wrote their vows, you mean? And so that's the kind of thing that we're talking about now, the common ones that everyone pretty much has said in the wedding that had a wedding. And so, because a lot of people got married in different places. So that's why I say that had a wedding. But tonight, we're going to talk about the differences, the different things. We're going to work into vows. We're going to talk about what a vow is and how it relates to what we're going to be talking about. Because a lot of people, when they hear vows, especially when they hear vows in church, and especially in our church, and when we talk about vows, it has something to do with a financial obligation. Mm-hmm. And vows are not just about financial obligations. In the Bible, when he mentions about, and there's many different references concerning vows, one of the things that it talks about, and we're going to go into the scripture talking about it. We're not going to be preachy, but we're just going to be letting you know what a vow is, number one. We're going to let you know what a vow is by definition. And then we're going to give you examples of people who made vows. There are two types of vows. There are solemn vows, and there are solemn vows, and there are also rash vows that we're going to give you example of those too. So one of the first things we want to do, like I said, we want to tell you basically what is a vow. Everybody pretty much, kind of figure, well, hey, vows, something promised, But there are different definitions of vow. But I'm gonna read three definitions of a vow that we have here. One's going to be a solemn vow. The definition is according to Webster's Dictionary. A vow is a solemn promise made to God or by a pagan to his deity. The Roman generals, when they went to war, sometimes made a vow that they would build a temple to some favorite deity if he would give them victory. A vow is a promise of something to be given or done hereafter. A person is constituted a religious by taking 3 vows of chastity, of poverty, and of obedience. Among the Israelites, vows of children were not binding unless ratified by the express or tacit consent of their fathers. And the one that they referenced to was in Numbers, the 30th chapter. So that, go there. Go to Numbers 30. There we go. See, we're going to start chapter. We're going to read starting now. Numbers 30 is basically talking about vows. It gives talks about 3 different examples. The first example that he gives, he said, when a man makes a vow, talking about a male, it refers to man in that case, referring to the male gender. When a male or man makes a vow to the Lord or takes an oath, he obligates himself to a pledge. He must not break his word, but must do everything he said. So as we just said in the definition, now to vow, I forgot to give you the rest of it, says to vow means to give, consecrate, or dedicate to God or by a solemn promise. So, and it also gives a reference to Jacob. When Jacob went to Mesopotamia, he vowed to God 1/10 of his substance of his own devotion to service of God. And it's Genesis 28. We're going to look at that too. When I vow a vow, defer not to pay it. We also going to talk about vows that not paid, to devote, and also the vows to make vows or solemn promises. He that vows must be careful to perform it. So vows are important to God. If you make one, he expects you to honor it. That's what he said. He said, Moses said to the heads of the children of Israel, this is what the Lord has said or commanded. When a man makes a vow to the Lord or takes an oath to obligate himself by a pledge, he must not break his word, but must do everything he said. Now, he said when a young woman is living, and I'm going to have to paraphrase this, a long chapter. If a young woman who's not married is in the house of her father and she just makes a vow and the father does not have an issue with it, because I was reading and say he doesn't speak out against her or he doesn't have any problem with it, then the vow stands. She has to do what she said. So, but if he forbids her and he says something about it, then she's released of it. And it's not sin to her because it was considered sinful to not honor their vow. He said it will be sin to him. So if she makes if she marries after she makes a vow and her lips utter a rash promise, and we're going to deal with that, which she obligates herself and her husband hears about it, but says nothing to her, then her vow, the pledges by which she's obligated herself will stand. But if her husband forbids her when he hears about it, he nullifies the vow that is obligated to her and the rash promise by which she obligates herself, and the Lord will release her. Now, that's not there because this is something that actually, the reason why we remember this scripture well, because we had to deal with this in our own personal life. Mm-hmm. My wife was a part of a auxiliary group. It was part of
we won't say.
Yeah, we was part of an auxiliary group at the time at the church we was at, and so we were all in the same church. Of course, when we was trying to get, I guess, seats or whatever. What we was trying to get, we was doing a bench pledge or whatever. So my wife and I wasn't on the same team. But actually, we didn't do it together. They put me with somebody, and because they was doing it by auxiliary and by groups. So I ended up with somebody else, and my wife was in the group that she was in. Well, they had gotten together. The person had gotten together, and they say, "Hey, we're going to do it. This is what we're going to do as a group, and this is our obligation. This is what we're going to pledge." And so, my wife, when my wife brought it to me, because I didn't know anything about it, so my wife brought it to me and told me about it, and said she had pledged and this and that, and I said, I said, because I guess at the time, I don't know what was the situation then. I think it was because we didn't have the money or something was up.
Yeah. I think that was the case.
Yeah. We didn't have the money actually at that time to pledge that much, and we had pledged and whatnot. Now, mind you, they could have got it. I mean, they were real. They were really active as far as fundraisers and stuff like that, so they could have got it. But the fact is that she made the vow outside of consulting with me as her head, and so we didn't discuss it. We didn't talk about it. It wasn't even brought to my attention. I didn't know anything about it till she said it and said it was already done. And I was like, no. I said, we can't do that. I said, because you know our situation. And so, because she handles the finances just like she do now, but she do it more now than she did then. Both of us kind of even plane then. And that was pretty much, we both decided together how we was going to deal with our money and whatever. Mm-hmm. We still do. She just handles it better. I just let her handle it. I don't fool with it. So anyway, the whole thing is getting down to the point. The whole thing was that it brought us to the scripture, because I think we didn't we talk about it in church? I think we did one time.
Yeah.
Somebody asked a question. It came up as a question. He said, well, if a person makes a pledge and they're married, and one of the persons in the group, one of the couples, like the wife, make the pledge, is she still obligated to do it, even though if the husband disagrees? And we came across the scripture. Well, according to even though it's the law, it's still God's word, and it still stands, even though it's law. But it's in the old covenant, but still, it still stands. Some things don't change. Okay, just saying. Yeah. So, by the fact is, and I think I was the one that answered it, wasn't it? They asked me. Mm-hmm. And I came across the scripture and I said, well, according to the word, if she made that vow and I wasn't aware of it, or the husband wasn't, I didn't say me, but I said the husband wasn't aware of it, that vow can't stand according to the word. That releases her from it, because it wasn't done because he had no knowledge of it. They didn't do it together. They just did it because, and she did it outside of his headship. And so when she brought it to me after it was decided by someone else. She had no idea. So, yeah. So when she brought it to me, I was like, no, you're free of that. Because really, honestly, she was free of it. And they didn't trip. Everything was good. We still got the benches. We still got the money. Everything was done. But she was released to that promise, because it would have made her obligated. And that's what this word was saying. So you got to be careful what vow. That's what he says. When you vow, don't defer to pay it. Matter of fact, the word tells you to be careful not to make any rash vows before the Lord. Mm-hmm. Don't make any rash promises, because basically solemn promises what a vow is. Don't make any solemn promises, because they tell you, we learned that if you can't really do something, don't swear that you're going to do it, or don't make any promises that you can't keep. That's what you hear the term say that. One of the things, my mother's going to be the Lord now, but when she was living, she would always tell my wife that she admired the fact that one thing about me, she said, I wasn't going to lie to her. Right. Because if I told her, I didn't make her no promises and say I wasn't going to do it. I was going to do it and then turn around and didn't do it. Mm-hmm. I would either tell her I wasn't sure at that time, or I couldn't do it, or I could do it. But I wasn't going to just sit there and say, hey, Mama, do it, and then don't turn around and don't do it.
Yeah, because she would expect you to do it.
Yeah, she expects you to do it. Yeah, and she was one of those type, and she was from that generation that when you said you were going to do something, you were supposed to do it. And so and we like that too, and so we expect people to keep their word, which
your word is supposed to be your bond.
That's right.
And that's how she was.
Mm-hmm. And that's how, and we're like that too. I mean, I expect people to do what they say they're gonna do. Although I know people enough to know that they are not going to do exactly what they say they're going to do.
And a lot of people have good intentions.
Yeah, they good.
And they say stuff, I guess, out of excitement or like say out of good intention, then they don't carry through.
Yeah.
And then here lies the problem.
Yeah.
So
that's the problem, is the fact that people will like she said, had good intentions to do it, but things happen. They things come up, circumstances change. We've had people promise us all kind of stuff. I'm kidding. From we had a person, and see, you have to be careful who you make promises to.
Yes.
If you say you're going to give someone something, like, and and I know people enough, especially, I know church folk. Church folk will make these rash vows and say, man, they get into the excitement of the moment and they'll say, prophet, we just gonna do this and this for you, and we love you, and we gonna give you this, and when the Lord bless us with this, and we gonna give you this, and okay.
And soon as they get it, they forget that vow they made. Yeah.
Do you think God forgot it? No. Because one thing about it, he says that every idle word men shall utter, they shall give account of in the day of judgment. That's why you got to be careful what you say.
Exactly.
You can't just say stuff just throw it out there, because those words have power. That's why life and death, the Bible says, is in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. So if you love and I studied, I really didn't understand that second part. At first, I thought about it. I say, well, that didn't sound like it's okay. Death and life in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. And I was like, they shall love it, shall eat the fruit of it. So I was like, what? So this is how it came across to me. If you love to speak death, you'll eat the fruit of death. If you love to speak it. Because usually people, that's all you hear them complain. They speak death. They speak death on themselves. They speak sickness on themselves. They speak all kind of poverty on themselves. So guess what? If you love the fruit of that, you're going to eat it.
That's it.
Because death and life and the power of the tongue. So they that love it, love that power of that death, or love that power of that life, they'll eat the results of it, the produce of it. Because you're going to produce what you speak.
That's the truth.
Because whatever you say, that's what's going to happen. See, just like God, we're created in his image. So whatever he says, he sees. And whatever he speaks, that's what happens. Just like he told Adam. When he brought out the animals before Adam, he said, whatever you speak, whatever Adam called it, that's what his name was. So if he saw this big giant thing that had little horns on it, long neck, spots on it, long legs, he said, then God asked him, Adam, what do you call that? He said, that's a giraffe. Okay, that's what it is. So God honored what he said because he knew that he made him in his image. So just like us, and it hadn't changed. So if you keep speaking to yourself and calling yourself stupid, calling yourself crazy, calling yourself sick, calling yourself broke, calling yourself this, guess what you're going to be? You're going to be broke, crazy, sick, and everything else.
You eating the fruit thereof.
You eating the fruit thereof. So a vow is spoken. But what it is, a vow is a promise that is kept afterwards. The example of a vow that was kept, and God made sure he kept it, was Jacob. And that's what we talked about earlier. We're going to go to maybe going to be my page turner tonight. Genesis 28. Jacob made a promise to God when he escaped away from Esau. Now, if you're not familiar with the story, let's see, go to verse, yeah, there. Right there. Dream of Bethel. Okay. What happened? You're not familiar with the story. Jacob and Esau were brothers. and gone. There were sons of Isaac. Isaac had two sons, Jacob and Esau. They were firstborn. The firstborn they were twins. So the firstborn was Esau. Esau, as he was coming out of the womb, Jacob had grabbed his heel, and that's how he got his name. Jacob means heel grabber, basically. So Jacob was close to his mother, and Esau was close to his father. Now, let me explain something to you. These two people, Jacob and Esau, Isaac and Rebekah, were totally different. Okay, from the time that Isaac got Rebekah, she was a real beautiful woman. And matter of fact, he didn't even go get her. Abraham had her brought to him, and it was shortly after. It was a little while after Sarah had died. He said, "Well, I'm getting old. I want to get my son wife." He sent his trusted servant Eliezer. Eliezer went and got her, brought her back, and she with him, had two sons. So these two sons grew up, and it was coming to the time Isaac was old. He was blind. He couldn't see. He only knew him by voice and feeling. So what ended up happening, the day came that he had to bless them before he leaves. So the blessing that they were going to receive was a blessing of everything that he had. He was passing it on to them, their inheritance, the birthright. But here's the kicker. Jacob was slick. See, Jacob hung around his mother, who had a little game. Esau wasn't that smart. Okay. I mean, Esau wasn't that smart, actually. Esau was a hunter. He was an outdoorsman. He was a gamesman. He was a duck hunter, a hunt deer, and he was that kind of guy. He was a manly man, And Jacob, on the other hand, he was a houseboy. He was a homebody. He hung around his mama. So but he was a cook. He cooked good. So one day, while Esau was coming back from hunting, Jacob had cooked some meat, cooked a meal. He cooked some lentils or some beans or whatever, and it was really good. He was a good cook. So he ended up, both of them were, but he was really good because he hung around his mom. His mom taught him all that stuff. And so he said, give me this. He didn't get anything back from the honey. He said, give me this bowl of beans or whatever lest I die. He was just like he was going to starve to death. Basically, is what he was saying. Say, I'm starving to death, man. Give me some of that food. He said, I'll give it to you if you give me your birthright. Say, fine. What is that good to me right now? So he gave it to him. He sold his birthright for a bowl of beans. And the Bible said that he despised his birthright. His birthright was him being the firstborn. He received everything and double that of the blessings that was to be passed on to him from his father. And his father did that by speaking. He spoke the blessing over him. So Isaac was about to die. He asked him, his last request was he make him this meal that he wanted, always liked him to make. Say, make that for me, and then you can come and I'll bless you. So while he was gone, Rebekah had received a prophecy concerning them too. So she said, I want you to go out there and kill a young goat and bring it to me, and I'm going to cook it. And I want you to go in there and give it to your father and get the blessing. He said, man, he's going to recognize me. He's going to know the difference. So you going to send me there, and then you'll be able to curse on me instead of say, don't worry about that. Let your curse be on me. Just do what I tell you to do. So he went. He stuck in there. He slickly got the blessing. And when he left out, Esau came in, and he gave him a totally different blessing, which wasn't even like the one that Jacob received. And Jacob had to flee for his life because he was going to kill him after Isaac died.
Yes.
So this is the process of when he was actually on the run going toward his Uncle Laban, who was his mother's brother's house. And so he was in Bethel, which was one of the first place that Abraham had pitched his tent when he was traveling and sojourning to Canaan. Was the first place, was Bethel. So he said he left Beersheba and set out for Haran. Now, he basically was going reverse in which they were going, because Haran was a place where his great-grandfather stopped. Terah, which was Abraham's father, stopped in Haran. Haran was actually named after his Abraham's deceased brother, who was Lot's father. And so they named Haran, and there was a play when I preached some mess on Haran. So that was a whole message about that. So that's what this place was called. And so when he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Then taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven. The angels and God ascending and descending on it. And above it stood the Lord and said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. And I will give you and your descendants the land in which you are lying. Your descendants shall be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south, and all the peoples will be blessed on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go and will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I've done what I have promised you. Jacob awake from the sleep and said, sure, the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. He said he was afraid and said, how awesome is the place, and there is none other than the house of God, which is the gate of heaven. Bethel means house of God. So he basically said, this is the Bethel, or the house of God, the gate of heaven. So he said, next morning, Jacob took a stone which he had placed in his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on it. And he called that place Bethel, though the city used to be called Luz. Then Jacob vowed a vow. This is what he vowed, saying, if God will be with me and watch over me on this journey I am taking and will give me food to eat and clothes to wear so that I return safely with my father's household, to my father's household, then the Lord will be my God. And this stone which I set up shall be a pillar, set up as a pillar will be God's house. And all that you give me, I will give you a tenth. So he promised a tenth of everything that he got if he just promised to take care of him. So that was the whole chapter 28. So he ended up going, later on, he ended up going through all this stuff. And let's see, I'm going to get to the part when God had told him he was going to fulfill this promise. So, yeah. He said, and the Lord told him in chapter 31, he told him go back to his father's house. And because he told him that he was going to give him everything that he promised that he was going to do. Let's see. Well, anyway, the thing is, there was one scripture, I ain't find it now, but one of the scriptures is saying that he was going to do that, what he had vowed, he was going to perform that which he had vowed. So he did everything that he said he was going to do, because God did bring him back kept him. He took care of him and his family. He gave him food to eat, gave him a place to sleep, gave him more kids than he can count. So he had all those sons, he had all the 2 wives, he had a bunch of servants, he had cattle that you could just get. And then he ended up getting in a fight with God, and God, he prevailed, and God changed his name. Well, God honored his vow. And so God expects us to honor our promises. And that's what he wanted him to do, was to honor what he said he was going to do. And God fulfilled his end. And God will fulfill his end. When you make him a promise, he'll do his part, but he expects you to do yours too. So, but there is another form of vows that, like our solemn vows. There was a vow of the Nazarite. Go back to the search. Let's find that one for... put vows in. There was the Nazarite vow. There was it was also the vow that Samson was under. His was more extended, but normally they have them only certain parts of days. What they did, they were not allowed to cut their hair. They were not allowed to eat or drink anything of the vine, and they were to not touch anything dead, which Samson did all three. And so, he ended up scooping up his first thing. He touched a dead thing. He killed the lion with bare hands, and then went back. The carcass was filled with a honeycomb, and he dipped his hand in there and got it out the dead carcass of a lion. Didn't tell his father and mother where he got it from. So then his other thing is that he they never say that he drunk, but he did have weddings. So of course they had wine. Yeah. So of course he probably drunk a little bit. He was a little crazy. Mm-hmm. And then later on, of course, you know about the story. He got his hair cut. So once you cut his hair, the vow was broken. Mm-hmm. But they did it until once they did cut it, they burned it on the altar and they served at their sacrifice or their dedication. They did it. Those were solemn vows. They had to do it for a certain time. Now.
Yeah, because he's supposed to live as like a Nazarite.
Yeah, he was supposed to live that way for the rest of his life. So that's what ended up happening with him. So now, but there is a certain thing called a rash vow. Mm-hmm. And the most tragic one that the Bible mentions is this character called Jephthah. Jephthah made a vow to God concerning victory. Jephthah was in the book of Judges. I believe Jephthah was in the book of Judges. Yeah. Jephthah was one of the judges at the time. Mm-hmm. And Jephthah was a son of a prostitute. He wasn't legitimately a son of his father. He was a side chick's son. So he ended up being they needed his help. So he came to them, and they came to him wanting them to help him because Jephthah was a pretty good fighter and whatever, and he was a judge at the time. They wanted help. They didn't want his help at first, and then all of a sudden they wanted to come back because they wanted him to come defeat their enemies. So he ended up helping them, but he made this vow. He said, Lord, if you give me victory over my enemies, that when I come back from battle, the first thing come out the house, I'm going to dedicate it as a burnt offering to you. That's what he said. And so when he went, he did. God gave him the victory. He beat all the enemies. He chased them off, and he came back and he was rejoicing. And see, Jephthah had a daughter, and he had one daughter. And so when Jephthah came back, because he had made the promise that the first thing that comes out of his house, he was going to burn it as an offering to God. Guess what come out of his house? The first thing come out of his house when he got home, his daughter. So he was livid. He was just no good when he saw his daughter coming out of the house because he knew he had to honor the vow. And he told her what he had promised God. And he couldn't back down from the vow. So he ended up, they never said in the Bible whether or not he actually did it because it was forbidden him to burn kids, you know. But she did not marry. She was just basically, I don't know. It's kind of unclear, but I'm pretty sure the unsaid thing that he ended up having to, because he was so dedicated with the vow that he had to do it. The Bible talks about how a person like a righteous man swears to his own hurt and does not change. So you got to get to the point that when you make a promise to God or you make a promise to anyone, if you make a vow, the Bible says if you vow a vow, don't defer to pay it. Don't back down away from it. Don't take it. One proverb says that don't give something rashly as a vow and then decide to take it back. Don't do that. If you make a promise that you're going to do something, either say no or yes. God would rather you just say no or yes to people than you to make promises and not keep them. And when it comes down to marriages, when you made a vow that you were going to, be there and through good times and bad times, through ups and downs, through sickness and health, through rich or poor, and death to you part. When you made that vow and said that I'm going to be there for you, no matter what circumstances arise in our life, that I'm going to stay, then God expects you, because you're doing this not only before people, you do this before God.
Yes.
And he recognizes that vow, and he wants you to honor that vow. So that's why we're talking about this, and we're going to get into more of it later. But we want you to know that we believe in you, and we believe in what God is going to do with you. And if you're listening to this, we want you to know that we're praying for you, and we're believing God's best for you, and that God is going to do great things in your life. Anything you want to say, babe, before we go? You pretty much good. So she gonna see now. If I could have taped what she was doing earlier, y'all, she had a lot. I mean, sometimes I'll be wanting to just like, I'm gonna hit the audition while she not paying attention. Just let us go.
I think that would be good.
It probably would be good just to let her just hear that, because like I say, we do have what we're going to try to do. Next week, I'm trying to start a little earlier so we can get a better, we'll be more focused, and then we can be able to tell you, because we really want you to get this. We want you to honor the vows that you've spoken to God and spoken to others. We want you to honor that.
Right.
So, like I said, we're going to let you go tonight, and we thank God. If you want, like I said, if you're listening to this on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. If you're going to go to our website at bracingmarriagetogether.wordpress.com, that'll give you links to our podcast, give you links to our different social platforms that we have, and also to our Facebook. Also to our to everything else that we pretty much have. You listen to us on Google Play. Hopefully, like I said, we're working on getting other platforms. But just like I said, just go to our website. We'll have information there, links there concerning that. And like I said, we're going to go. But like I said, we're praying for you. We're believing God's best for you. And we'll see you on next week. Have a good weekend.
And remember to honor and keep your vows.
That's right. Keep your vows and go to church Sunday. We're going to go. God bless you.